Hey, everybody. This is going to be the first video in a series of videos exposing you to NotebookLM. And the first goal is simply just to kind of show you what the interface is, what it looks like, just touch on a few basics, but not go into a lot of detail about using the notebook, but just a little bit of an exposure to NotebookLM. Okay, so let's get going, right? So I am on the main landing page in NotebookLM. And first of all, how did I get here? Well, your URL is notebooklm.google.com. This is a Google product. It is part of the Google suite. As an educational institution, we do have access to a really, really robust version of NotebookLM for free as part of our Google App Suite. There's no need to upgrade to anything here. Again, the free version is more than enough as an educational user. All you're going to do is log in again with your Google credentials. So log in with Google and you're there. You're ready to go. All right. You can see I have existing notebooks, but when you're ready to get started, all you're going to do is create a new notebook. In a later video, I will do that. I'll show you from scratch how to create a new video. Okay, a lot of just little options here for organization. Here is your settings. One of the best things I think here is that you can control the output language of the notebook. So if you wanted to create a notebook specifically for an English language learner whose native language is Spanish, you can change your your output language from English to, maybe it's under E. It is under E, to Espanol. It was right there. All right. And again, I can even choose my different version of Spanish that I prefer to use, or dialect of Spanish. Okay. I'm going to keep mine at English and go ahead and exit out of there. All right. So basic settings on that main landing page. Let's go into an existing notebook, take a quick tour, and then we'll wrap this one up. So this is a video for one of my units in United States history. So what it is, a notebook, you've got, let's start up here at the top. You've just got your title. The title does get automatically generated initially by NotebookLM based on the content that you provide. You can edit that. So it didn't call it Unit 5 Sectional Conflict. I believe it did call it Sectional Conflict and Civil War Triggers. I added that Unit 5 in there. Okay, and then that same title is here. But one thing I do also have control over is the emoji that NotebookLM chooses. So initially, this chose a US flag for this unit, and I like to use a broken house when I tag this unit for my files. And so I can click there, and I've got my whole library of emojis that I can choose from. All right, so again, just some basics, the creating of a notebook and the naming of a notebook. Now you've got really sort of three sections, and I'm sort of looking at these three big vertical columns here. The three columns are, this one over here is my sources. This is the real strength of NotebookLM. Again, I'll cover this in a different video, how I got those sources in there. But when it generates materials in the studio, or when you engage in a chat with NotebookLM, it will use only the sources you tell it to use. Again, that is just huge in my mind. And so you can see I've got a combination of sources here: Google Docs, Google Slides, PDFs. I can use external materials. So this is a YouTube video that the kids watch as part of their formative learning. And so these are all the resources that we've used throughout the unit, including like a study guide down there at the bottom, open note quiz that they took. So I put in here what I want to put in here. All right. Again, I'll go into more detail later. Based on those sources, it generates an executive summary. And then again, based on those sources, I can engage in a chat with, just like I might do in, say, GPT, but it's not pulling any answers, material, resources, etc., from some sort of external source that I never used and I didn't expose the kids to. Because of course, I mean, we could go really, really broad here. I want to focus on the learning we did in class. That's what I love about this. Okay. That source, or that chat does get saved. It remains part of the notebook, bespoke to the user who is in the notebook. Again, talk about it more later. Third piece is over here, this studio. This is evolving regularly. I made this notebook, I want to say in November of 2025. I don't think infographic was there, and I don't think slide deck was there. So those are both new. And so you're generating, you can see this is my user generated content, and I use these tools to do that. Again, I'll cover that more in depth later. I'm just giving us this nice basic tour here. Woo, I did not want to do that. All right. And then last thing on our tour, I already showed you that this is me logged in using my Google account. I already showed us settings. Those settings are a carryover from the main landing page. The last thing that I can do here is, well, I can create a notebook. All right. But the last thing I want to show you here is that what's great is that I can share this. So this is something that I can share with teachers in my school, but the real strength of it is I can share it with my students. My students have full access to this because we're high school. So I think there is an age limit of 13. Initially, it actually was 18, and it got dropped down in July of 2025, I believe, to 13. I'd want to check myself on that. Again, this is evolving too. Welcome note. I'm pretty sure that was not there in November when I shared this with these guys. Also knew that I can control what resources they have available to them when they go in. So a little bit more, getting into a little bit more detail there. Okay. And then I just usually, this notifies them just like if you shared any Google app with them, a Google Doc or a Google Slide, it will notify them that they have access to it. I can also copy the link and put that link on Canvas, which of course is pretty awesome. Okay. I think that's it for a really good basic tour. So the next step will be to go into more detail about each of these different pieces. And I'll do that in another video to make this not too long and overwhelming. All right. Thanks.